Unsyndicated presents Off the Board, the weekly gambling show. Hosted by Blake Majrzak and Mike Iverson.
Welcome to week 3. I think it's episode 4 of Off the Board because we did the preseason, the week 0. Yeah. So welcome in. I'm Blake Majrzak, my buddy Mike Iverson here. We're going to talk about some bets. To start, Mike, we didn't have a great week 1 of the NFL / week 2 of college football on the show.
No, on the show. And as I said, as we were just talking, that I'm going to say throughout this show, you've got to listen. When I say lean, I don't have it in my pocket. Mm-hmm. When I say I have it, it's in my pocket. Those are the bets I have. So for the show, the ones I leaned on, oh, Blake, that was just a bomb. That was just a bomb. But overall, the ones I had in pocket, not bad. But I know we'll get to all that.
So, and I don't know if you do this, and after a week, I'll go through and I look at games and I say to myself, would I still bet this again? Even knowing I lost, do I feel like I was on the right side?
Boom.
Okay.
So let me ask you, what do you determine as on the right side?
Like if it was a bad beat.
Yep.
Like that. Now all these weeks are starting to run together. Like that Northwestern Duke game that went into overtime.
Yep.
And then the over hit.
Yep.
And there was like in regulation, that game was way under.
Yeah.
I was on the right side of that game. I should have won that game.
Yeah. Wasn't it Rutgers that ran one in at the end of the game to mess up one of your unders too?
So no, that messed up. I had gotten that earlier in the week, but that did affect some people against the over under. Yes.
Yeah.
But like a game like last week, like that I threw out, the App State Clemson game, like that was never even close. I never felt good about that game. I'm very happy I wasn't on the under of that because I had thought about that. And that game went over, I'm pretty sure, in the first quarter.
I think so. Yeah, so that's when you'll hear me and everyone that's listening hears me talk about closing line value. That's where I'm going to determine whether I was on the right side or not. When I beat the closing line, which I actually did a pretty good job of in the NFL last week, I actually didn't lose one closing line. I tied more than I wanted to. That's what I'll determine. But then I'll have a game. We were just talking about Will Levis. I was on the right side of that game. Tennessee's 100%. Not only covering that game, they're winning that game outright. And Will Levis just said, here you go, take this game.
I think offensively, they only lost that game by 3 points.
Yeah, blocked punt, touchdown, pick 6, touchdown. I was just watching it laughing.
Like Iowa State, Iowa. Like if you told me tomorrow that they were playing again and I had to bet the over-under, I'm still taking the under.
100%. Those are games, so I would say I was on the right side. But for the majority of it, I just look at that closing line and I'm like, I know I was on the right side because I know that's where the pros were.
Yes. So, and I know you're focused more on NFL. I'm more focused on college, but you're looking at everything.
Yeah.
This isn't a great slate for college this weekend.
No.
There's one ranked matchup. And it's Boston College and Missouri of all two.
Number 24, Boston College. How about that? And then Missouri. I don't know. I'm liking them.
They haven't played anyone. So we'll find out a lot about them this weekend. Obviously,
they are on an 86-0 run in 2 games. I think is what the stats are.
And and the gambler, their coach is keeping the pedal to the metal.
Mm-hmm.
They scored a touchdown last week with like no time left to cover.
Yeah.
And they were like throwing it still everything. And I'm like, I love that. As a gambler, those are the kind of coaches that I feel comfortable betting.
And he's got to do that because you look at the conference they're in, there's no guarantees in there. He's got to make his mark. So if you want to be one of those 12 and you're not going to win that conference, you're going to have to do it. And he's showing that. So as a bettor, when you're going to bet a Missouri game, you know you've got a coach that's going to be in your pocket as far as covering that line and getting that over.
So, Todd, do you have the games ready from last week? If you want to pop those up on the screen, I don't know if you do or not. Perfect. There we go. So last week for college, Mike had a quick 0-5 week.
Real quick, we're just going to gloss over that. And when we gloss over that, we're looking at, I will own up, I did have that under in the Oregon game. Outside, oh, wait. No, I did not take the Michigan game. But I did have that. I did end up getting on that under in the Oregon game because I was going on the side of the books because everyone was firing on that over.
Yeah, and I, like I said, but that's a game that I would bet again. There's 2 special teams touchdowns in that game. Like, those aren't repeatable things. So I still feel like I was on the right side of that. Even though I lost the bet, I felt good about my thoughts on the game and why I bet it. Obviously I nailed that Michigan game, and I probably didn't give enough credit to Texas. I mean, Texas that game was never in doubt. That first half, I was like, this game's over. And
I was driving home listening to that game, and that first drive, every time they got the third long, I was encouraged. I'm like, all right, this is a good. And then they got the first down. Then they got the first down. Then they got
Texas might be the best team in the country. So I'm not, as a Michigan fan, I'm not obviously the offense I have a million thoughts on, but I don't take any shame in losing to that Texas team. They are a damn good football team, and they're going to win a lot of games, and I think they're going to be playing for the SEC championship.
Yeah, and that game coming up, as we were talking about, because remember I said if Texas and Georgia played, and you're like, well, guess what, Mike? It's going to happen in a couple of weeks. I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot that they moved to the SEC.
I'm pretty sure that week Texas and Georgia play. I'm like 99% sure. I'll double check this. Texas and Georgia play, and so does Ohio State and Oregon in the same day. Like different time slots, obviously, but there. And then I believe Florida and the slate that weekend is insane.
Yeah,
it's not like a weekend like this where there's one ranked unranked. There's it's the craziest slate of college football we've ever seen. And that's the beauty of conference realignment.
Yeah, and that's the weekend. That's the Saturday. You have to know that no family events, nothing's going on from noon to midnight. I'm going to be in front of my TV watching these games. Yep. I'm going to be laying some money. Before we get rid of this right here, I'm going to, again, I said I was going to mention it 500 times. This is probably one of the 500 times I'm going to mention it is Oregon. That Oregon game is the only one outside of us just trying to look at some big games and stuff to throw out there. That Oregon is the only one that I would have taken. The numbers, the only one the numbers worked out for me. Didn't win the bet, but that's all right. But just so everybody knows out there, if they're looking at these bets, don't necessarily start firing on everything we're saying here. These are just the games that we're spotlighting.
Yeah, exactly. And next, we'll talk about some NFL from last week as well. Opening night, right when we wrapped, basically that feels like a month ago now.
Right,
it was a week ago. But I mean, Kansas City still looks okay. Xavier Worthy, I had been hyping him up all off season, and then he just showed up week 1, which was awesome.
Yep.
And it was a great game. Obviously, came literally down to a toenail. So I still feel like I was on the right side of it.
Right. Oh, absolutely. But hey, the Kansas City came through on that one. But with Xavier Worthy, that's someone I know some of the value's gone out of it, but taking a look at him for offensive rookie of the year for what they're going to put that guy through, right? I mean, I think the last I saw he was 12-1. That's still not bad because I don't know how much lower he's going to get right now because all the quarterbacks are up there, which I don't understand. Caleb Williams throws for 86 yards and he's like a plus 350 favorite. So, but that's one to take a look at, that guy for rookie of the year.
And I love him for touchdown scorer.
I
bet that obviously, we had talked about it, but I will fire on him touchdown scorer all the time because he's so explosive, and what they're going to do with him in that offense, it's just going to get better. The Philly game, obviously you were on the right side of that. I was on the wrong side of it. It wasn't even close. Like I knew I was toasted on that one real quick. Saquon scoring 3 touchdowns and had an incredible performance. I did have him to score a touchdown in that game, so I came out ahead on that.
I love your touchdown picks.
I did so bad. Like the 3 guys I sent you last night, though, never even close.
No, I mean there was 2 guys scoring touchdowns in that game. That was the strangest game. We could get to that one after we clear this board. But as now that we've gotten past my 2 wins, when we get to these next 3 games, the Dallas game, the Detroit game, these are these games we're talking about. I would still put these same bets in. You go to the Dallas game. Who thought Cleveland was going to stink like that?
Now I know. Deshaun Watson is broken.
Oh, he's broke. Not only is he broken, did you see the news this morning that's going to affect bets coming up here? Is he going to play this week? He's got another accusation.
Oh, yeah. No, I really hope that he doesn't play. He's not a great guy.
No, not at all. And I've got to go through and see. I don't know if I fired on that game or not, but the Detroit game, that was never in doubt. Nice bet, whatever. San Francisco just trucking.
I was very upset, though, with the Detroit game because I wanted them to just win it. They could have won it in regulation, and then I would have covered.
Yeah.
Once it went to overtime, I knew I was dead.
I knew I was dead.
True.
This is true.
And looking back now, I like looking at San Fran after watching that game. Like San Fran's defense might be back.
Yes.
So that's something to think about going forward. Like, obviously, I know Rodgers didn't have a great game, but they're like Fred. I forgot how awesome Fred Warner is. He was just flying around the field, and he's incredible.
Everywhere. He was at both. I mean, in the beginning, both the Jets defense was firing on the ball. They were fast. They just kind of fell apart. But in comparing, look at those 2 defenses right there. And I know you didn't get to much of the game last night, but I sent you that text like, these defenses are awful. There's going to be – if Tua doesn't get hurt, there's 70 points scored in that game. I still don't know how that game didn't go over. But those defenses were so soft. And then to get back, I'm still not fading the Jets.
No.
I like that defense. If they can stay healthy, we'll see what they do this week.
Yeah, now McCaffrey, I mean, I think they're throwing him on IR for sure. So he's going to be out at least a month. But I also understand that with an Achilles, like if I'm him, I'm not messing around with that. Because like for a quarterback, obviously an Achilles, like you can come back from that. For a running back, that can like basically end your career.
No, and that's one bad step away from him being done.
Mm-hmm.
So they're and they proved what they showed in week 1 is we're going to be all right for a little bit. You get healthy and come back, and because we don't need you in the first 5-6 weeks, we need you in the last 6 weeks.
100%. So do you want to get into this week's games? Let's see these final totals, and then we're washing it away, and we're moving it on.
And just go quickly right there. And I
wash it away. We're moving on. We're on to Cincinnati. As Bill Belichick would say.
Where are we going to? So we're going to go right into these bets here, right?
Right into if you're cool with that. Is there any other thoughts you had from last week looking forward to this week?
So if there's one thing that I want to say, I always like to give out some advice, and there's always a game that hits and I think about during the week, and I'll write it down. And last week it was the Seattle game. Mm-hmm. So I got Seattle. It opened at -4.5. I got it at -5.5. By the time that game went off, you could either find it at 6 or 6.5. And why am I bringing this up, Blake? Is because it landed on 6. You've got to have more than one out. You've got to get that best line. I know me and you have talked about this. I've got 2 or 3 apps I go to. You've got 2 or 3 apps you go to. I mean, it's a matter of if you only have one app and he would have got 6.5, that's a loss. At least 6 would have been a push. So you've got to shop out there and get the best lines when you're looking at it. Don't just settle for that line.
100%. And like we're seeing that, like in a game we're going to talk about in a little bit, like that Rams game,
Mm-hmm.
the spread's all over the place. Like even book to
Yep.
book, it's all over the place.
Yep.
But and then like a game I was looking at for college, that Notre Dame game.
Yep.
I sent Todd lines this morning, like not even early morning. It was like 11 o'clock.
Yep.
That line's already moved from 10 down to 7.5.
And then I didn't. At one point, it was around 16 when those early lines came out a couple weeks ago, and it's just dropped down. And that's dropping, because they don't know if Leonard's going to play. They don't know if the quarterback's going to play. And this is what I've heard listening to the talking heads is, as that line ticks towards 7 and gets down, if they dress the backup quarterback who's played in the bowl game, who has some experience, fire on Notre Dame, even though Notre Dame is my NCAA trend of the week.
What do you, I need you to elaborate on that.
All right. So the NCAA trend of the week, favorites of 19.5 or more that lose the next week, they are only covering 35% of the time. Even more shocking, Blake, they are losing outright 63% of the time. The only team that matches that trend this week is Notre Dame.
Well, I feel much better about a pick I was going to throw out later in the show. I like that the stats are backing me on this.
that is one of those trends that's out there now. When I wrote that stat, like you said, that line was 10.5 when I wrote that down, because I said what matches it is Purdue getting 10.5. That line's inching towards it's going to hit 7. It's going to go below 7.
Oh yeah, I think so too. It's crazy. But there was a game I was looking. I mean, these spreads are all over the place. Just to throw it out, like I'm looking at like South Florida Southern Miss. There's books that have it at 10.5, and then there's another book that has it at 12, like the spread in that game. So that's
rare.
That's a 1.5 difference. I know they're not football key numbers, but it still makes a difference, especially with how these teams are going for 2 nowadays. Yeah, everything like that. It does. It does crazy. Change things up.
You should see more stuff like that, because the line should be individual books, right?
Yeah.
But you watch the 2 or 3 that I have are very close, and it's one of those that sometimes I don't like it, sometimes I do like it. When I check the one app and it's down, I immediately go to that other one, because I know that one's going to follow it, so I can tag that line and I can get that line at a better number.
I wonder too, like if it varies state to state. So like in Michigan, obviously like people are going to be heavy betting the Lions and the Wolverines and the Spartans. So I wonder if you're out in Vegas, if those lines are slightly different, like maybe not even spread wise, but like just the juice on the odds, all that kind of stuff.
Because they all are linked together. Now, whether they link the physical books to the online books, I don't know, but I know I've talked to a few of them when I've been out in Vegas, and it saves me time, because I don't have to go from book to book to book when there's really only about 4 or 5 individual ones. There's a ton of books, but there's only 4 or 5, and they're all kind of linked. And I'm like, do you have a separate, like, for example, the Link, which is a Caesars property? I asked them, are you guys different than them, or do you just have the same? And they just run as Caesar moves, Lynx moves. It doesn't matter where that money's laid.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So you want to get into some of these college games? How are you feeling about the college games this week overall? How do you like the games that I sent you?
Yes. Now, it's funny because I wrote some games down trying to predict what you're going to send. I was nowhere close because of all the – it's crazy is all the rivalry games going this week.
Yes.
Right? So that's where I was looking. But I am feeling much more confident with what I have down on paper today than what I had last week. Like last week, I was struggling to find something. This, you'll see as we go through these lines, I've actually got some reasoning behind what I'm doing.
This slate was very hard to pick games.
Yes.
For because, like I said, there's not very many ranked on ranked games. There's weird matchups. There's a lot of really big spreads. Yep. So I had a hard time picking 5 games, but I went through the rivalries, and I think Alabama going to Wisconsin is just awesome game. So
Yes.
that's where we'll start. That's the big noon kickoff on Fox.
Yep.
Alabama at Wisconsin. Alabama's favored by 16.5. The over under is 49.5. I am actually this is one I'm very, very confident in. I love Alabama in this spot.
Okay.
I love Bama minus the 16.5. This is a game, honestly, I might bet like alt spread. Like jump it out to like 20.5. Because I think Alabama's gonna roll Wisconsin. Okay. I don't think Wisconsin's a very good team.
I love your confidence. I can't say that I was that I would be that confident in Alabama. I didn't like what I saw last week. And then, of course, as I'm sitting here and I'm waiting for us to get started, I've got to start going through stuff. Last week, Blake, 24 teams of underdogs of 15.5 or more covered last week. So we got to watch out. The big dogs are barking. But to get to my pick here, I skipped the side because of that. Like Alabama, Wisconsin, there's no way I'm putting anything on Wisconsin. You could give me 50 points. I'm not that sold on Alabama. I went and I looked at the under. I've got 28% of the bets, but 47% of the money. But yet still that line moved from 51.5 to 49.5. I'm on under 49.5 because, again, why would it move at 28% of the bets? The big boys are on it, so I'm on under 49.5.
I think that going into that game, that's the right side.
Yep.
I would think that Wisconsin would be able to create some stops. Obviously I think Alabama's going to stop Wisconsin's offense a lot.
Yes.
So,
I don't, the way I see it, I don't see much coming out of Wisconsin.
Yeah. So the next game, the only ranked on ranked matchup we have for the week, which again is just wild to say. Boston College being ranked is awesome.
Yes.
BC and Missouri. So I'll let you go first on this one, Mike. What's your pick for this one?
All right. So again, I'm afraid of these big dogs because I like Missouri, but I wouldn't touch that 16.5. I'm going again with the over and the under here. I've got a split of 35% of the bets, but 54% of the money on the under. And again, it's another one. Only 34% of the bets are on them, Blake, but yet it moved from 54 to 53.5, showing me that the big boys are moving that line. I've got under 53.5 in this one.
I like that a lot too.
Yeah.
My pick for this game is I just think the spread's a little too much. 16.5 is a lot of points. I'm taking BC. I want to see Missouri against a somewhat competent team because they've played a bunch of nobodies. We talked about the coach, though, playing to cover the spread. That part of it scares me a little bit. But if I have faith that BC will show up to this game, it's a huge spot for them being ranked again. They don't want to be dropped out of the rankings. You know, you see that little number next to your game next to your name as a player. I feel like that hypes you up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you're going to play an SEC team, you know?
Yes. And as a bettor, you've got to get used to going against the higher ranked team, that number 6 there, and you've got to go against your eyeball test sometimes. Like we just talked about this coach. He's going to cover every game. Hold on, I'm going to bet against him. You've got to be a bettor, Blake. You've got to be able to do that.
Yes. And I do my best out here. And as we've talked about a million times, I've talked about it on every platform I've ever been on. I'm incredibly stupid. I will tell you 10 reasons why I shouldn't bet it, and then I will bet it because I'm overthinking my overthinking.
All right. Okay. All right. See that's why I can't overthink my overthinking because I let other people do my thinking and I watch those numbers.
And you're much more numbers based. I'm vibes guy and I'm watching all these games and I'm like, there's no way Missouri covers 16.5. There's just no way.
And we had that conversation. I took Carolina last week at thinking something had changed, so it happens.
Bryce Young's broken, unfortunately.
Oof.
So the backyard brawl, which this is an incredible college football rivalry.
Yes.
If you're not I genuinely love this game. This takes me back to the old Pat White, Steve Slayton, Noel Devine, that team when they lost they lost to Pitt when they had a chance to go play for the national championship.
Yep.
Pat McAfee missed like 3 kicks that game.
Yep.
That's what I think of when I think of this game.
Yep.
I am taking Pitt plus the 1.5. There's spots right now that you can get it all. Like, this is another line that's all over the place. I'm looking at it right now. One book still has it at 1.5. There's another book that has it at 2, another that has it at 2.5. And when it's this small of a number, that makes a big difference.
Oh, what? Absolutely. This is actually right on my threshold. So I'm with you, Blake. I'm on Pitt plus 1.5. The line opened at 4.5, so it scares me that I've lost that much. And I know I'll never have value on this closing line here, and it's going to tick back. But that line moved 3 points with 30% of the bets and only 42% of the money on there. So to me, that shows me that the books took a stance. The books are saying we like Pitt in this game, and they're making it harder and harder to bet on Pitt. So again, I'm going to lose a little bit of value on this, but I'm with you on Pitt plus 1.5.
I love it. Oregon State. Mike, I'll let you kick this one off. This is a tough game right here.
This is a tough game, and this is this game we just talked about. When I look at this, I think probably the most, if not the second most overvalued team in the nation right now, especially betting, is Oregon. Their lines have been outrageous. They should have lost both games that they've been in against Utah and Boise State. But yet here I am, and I'm saying it not because I like Oregon, is because I think Oregon State is the trendy dog. So they've taken this line from 20.5 down to 16.5. I'll take those extra points, and I'm going to take Oregon minus 16.5 because the public loves Oregon State, and they're down on Oregon right now. So I'm going to jump on Oregon.
And I'm right with you. I'm not going to overthink it. I've bet on Oregon 2 weeks in a row and lost, and I will fire on Oregon again.
Yeah.
I think that they are the better football team, and eventually they will stop playing with their food.
Yeah,
and become the team that I thought they were going into this season.
Yeah, the quarterback gets comfortable, they're going to be all right.
Yeah, if Dylan Gabriel. I watched almost that entire game after Sean and I got off last week, and Dylan Gabriel just has a noodle arm, and I forgot about that.
Yeah,
and that part of it's hard to get out of my brain. But I know that Oregon, especially on the offensive line, once they get healthy, their offensive line is incredible, and they should be able to run the ball and play defense. And they haven't shown that yet. But, 2 special teams touchdowns last week. That, maybe they've thrown another special teams TD this week. Something like that.
I wasn't touching the under on this one.
No. And the last game out of these 5 is Washington State at Washington.
Yep.
Washington is favored by 4.5, over under 55.5. I like Washington State in this spot.
Okay.
I think Washington lost a lot of talent off of their team last year. Which I could have said the same thing about the last game too. That the whole Pac-12 revenge game. You're playing the team that left you in the dust to go to a better conference. And you could make that argument for Oregon State, but I think Oregon is a much more talented roster than Oregon State. Washington State and Washington are 2 very, very close rosters.
Yeah.
And also, real quick, I would lean over on this game personally. Okay. I think that these are 2 offenses that can put up a lot of points.
Okay. So I would this isn't where I'm going with this one, but I like your Washington State pick for the reason that, again, I think Washington's just way too popular. Everybody's on them. Only 26% of the bets are on Washington State, but that line has moved from 8.5 to 4.5. So I like your bet. The only reason I didn't take it, that line, was it's moved too much for me. It's moved 4 points. I'm not comfortable with that. So I'm going with under 55.5. I know you just said what your lean was, but there's only 36% of the bets, only 48% of the money. but that line hasn't moved. It opened 55.5 and it stayed at 55.5. That line should be moving up by those numbers, but it's not because they know that liability's on that under.
The only thing I have to warn you about this.
Yes, sir.
I've watched a decent amount. I'm not going to say I've watched like a whole game of Washington State. I've watched a quarter to a half of each of their games. Their DBs are legitimately horrible.
Okay.
Like they give up big plays like it's their job. Like their game should have went over easily last week, and then both teams just stopped scoring in the second half. I think the game there was like 37 points in the first half, and then no one scored like the rest of the game. Like I think there was like 10 points the rest of the game. So it went under. But Washington State's DBs are really, really bad. So there is that just to keep in mind.
All right, I got you.
So before we get to the NFL games, is there other college games that you really like for this week? You know, I have a couple I'll throw out, but I'd love to hear what you got this week.
I've got 6.
These are the locks. These are Mike's you fire on these.
100%. Everything we just did was for the show because these are the games we were going to talk about. These are the ones I have in my pocket, actually in my account. I've got UCF plus 1.5 at TCU. For the bet split is 46% of the bets, 72% of the money. This line opened at 1.5, stayed at 1.5, and actually when I checked this morning, it actually dropped and moved towards UCF. So I've got a little bit of value there. UCF plus 1.5. I'm going with Rice plus 4.5 for Houston. Another one. Why am I betting on Rice? But it's Rice.
I don't know how Houston covered last week. Like Houston is horrible. They shouldn't be in like football games, but they covered last week. Oklahoma might just be really bad, but I love that side. I'm with you on that. 100%.
Yeah, 23% of the bets, but 59% of the money. That line moved from 5.5 to 4.5. Again, when you have 23% of the bets, it shouldn't move that way. It did. It shows me that's where the liability is. Now I'm going to one of our rivalry games. I'm going to take Utah State. I'm taking the big dog plus 20.5 against Utah. I think Utah is got a little bit of what you'll hear me talk about, Blake, a lot, the human element. We saw Notre Dame have the human element last week. They read their press clippings. Utah's looking ahead to I already forgot who they're playing next week.
Oh,
where are they going next week? They've got Oklahoma State. They got Oklahoma State next week. They're looking ahead to a big game. I'm looking for a little bit there. This line, again, 20% of the bets, but it's moved towards Utah State. Utah State.
The only thing with that, too, is no one knows if Cam Rising's going to play. Their quarterback.
Yeah.
If he doesn't play, I'm 100% with you. I think Utah State all the way. Like, Utah was cruising in their game last week. I don't know how much of it you caught. I know you were like traveling and stuff.
Yep.
Like they were cruising. Then Cam Rising got hurt instantly. Their offense just stopped being able to move the ball. He is so important to that team.
Remind me who they played again. Was that the Baylor game?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had Baylor. So I was following that game.
Yeah, but if like they should if Cam Rising stays healthy, Baylor had no shot.
Yeah, Baylor was getting killed, and that was one where I just threw it out and then I checked it. My fourth game, I'm going with another big dog. I got Louisiana Tech plus 21.5 going against NC State. Another great split for me. 43% of the bets, 78% of the money. That line, when I took it, hadn't moved, so it was frozen. It should have moved. It didn't. It was 21.5. Now it's moving my way. It's at 21, so it's moving towards Louisiana Tech. That's a game I'm going to take all day. This one, I don't like. I've heard some people talking about it. I think this one stinks, but again, the splits. I got South Carolina plus 7 against LSU. The splits are 29% of the bets, 39% of that money. That line shouldn't be moving towards South Carolina. When I took it, it moved from 7.5 to 7. It is now at 6.5.
Yep.
So that line's ticking towards South Carolina. So that shows me the right side. My last one, I don't learn. I bet against my alma mater once. I lost. I'm going to do it again. I'm taking Jacksonville State plus 2 against Eastern Michigan. The splits are 20% of the bets, 50% of the money, but that line is moved from 2.5 to 2 to Jacksonville State. Again, when I see those splits and that line move towards that team, I know what it means, and that's what I'm taking. So those are the actual in Mike's accounts bets.
So I'm with you on the LSU South Carolina.
Okay.
LSU cannot run the ball. They cannot run the ball at all. And their quarterback is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But this is a strength on strength. You got South Carolina's D line, which has played really, really well this year against LSU, who probably has the best offensive line, top 5 in the country.
Right.
Like they have a very, very good offensive line. So I'm interested to see that. I just know Brian Kelly's going to fuck up at some point.
Yeah.
He'll screw up the game. And it being at South Carolina too, like home dog, everything. I'd like South Carolina. This might be like, so I was listening to someone else talk about this. If they win this game, this is the first South Carolina's first win under their current head coach, Beamer. This is their first like legit SEC win, like besides like Vandy or like Mississippi State. Like it would be a huge win for them. Huge win.
They can run on that D.
I like Purdue plus this. Yep. It's now down to 7.5, but I like Purdue in that spot as long as it stays. If it gets under a touchdown, don't touch it.
Would you not touch it, or would you flip? Like if it gets on, as soon as I see 6,
I just wouldn't touch it.
Okay,
I just wouldn't touch it.
Yeah,
if it's over a touchdown, I'm taking it. Anything less, I'm just not touching it because I want no part of Notre Dame right now. I want nothing to do with that team.
I can't.
Eric, I'll just get this out of the way for you. Eric, I see you. I'm listening. Michigan minus 22. Take it to the bank. They are going to cover. Arkansas State is one of the worst teams in the entire country. I don't know if Michigan will be able to score. I'm hoping their defense scores like 2 touchdowns in this game. But yes, I think Michigan wins and covers the 22.
And can I just say right here, go Muskies with their first win of the year in double overtime. Lindsey Muskies. There we go, boys.
Let's go, Lindsey Muskies. Did they cover but they didn't cover the
Oh no, they would have covered. They would have been dogs.
Okay.
St. Mike's Buzzers are one of the better teams in the league. So that was a home
in
dog
Canada. Can you bet on juniors hockey? Is that a thing?
I don't know. I would say probably not. You can bet on a lot of things. I don't know if you can bet on junior hockey just because it's not pro. I don't know. I've got no idea. Guess what, Brake? I'll be looking into that when I'm out there.
Can you look into that for me, please?
I will, because there is a casino in the area of where he stays that I will be at some point while he's out there. I will be visiting.
I love it.
Sorry about that update.
No, that's a great. Keep those updates coming, okay? UTSA Texas. I love the over 55.5. Texas might score 55.5 by themselves.
That's what I was just gonna say.
I like I said, I think Texas is top 3 team in the country. Obviously, that's where they're rated. But Texas is a really good football team, has a legitimate chance to win the SEC. And along that same line, Tennessee, Kent State. I'm taking the over in that game too. Tennessee can score points on literally anyone, and Kent State is also very, very bad. So that number is 62.5. I know it's a really big number, but this Tennessee team is for real.
I've been watching them. The quarterback is for real. The quarterback
Nico.
is now the biggest liability in sports books for the Heisman.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Deion Sanders is going to win and cover this week. Colorado at Colorado State minus the 7.5. Colorado State's just really bad. It's not that I'm betting on Colorado. Yep. I think Colorado State is really, really bad. We saw what they did against Texas. You took them against Texas. That was a mistake. They're really, really, really bad, in my opinion. So, and then last, my pick before the season to make the playoff in the group of 5 was Memphis.
Okay.
I'm now kind of second guessing that because of how good Boise's played. I know they lost last week, but I think Boise, as long as they went out, a 1-loss team that lost to Oregon on the road, should still have a pretty good chance to make the playoff. But Memphis at Florida State, Memphis plus 6.5. Florida State's just broken.
Yeah.
Their quarterback situation, well, it's not as bad as Michigan's. It's damn near.
Yeah. That is an absolute dumpster fire at Florida State, and I love that pick. Love it.
All right, let's get on to some NFL. Mike, how do you feel about the games I sent for the NFL this week?
I liked it. I actually have 2 of them.
Okay.
And then I would say all of them I was looking at. The only one, when we look at right here, so the Lions, I just can't do it. I just couldn't do it. But I've got 2 of them, but all 5 of them I was actually looking at.
Okay. I had a hard time. Like I texted you, I was like, "Hey, which game do you feel good about?" Because I found 4. There's 4 games. I was like, obviously the Lions game.
Yep.
And we have to do the 2 primetime games.
Yep.
And Kansas City, Cincy. The fact that that's not a primetime game is ridiculous. But we have to watch the Bears and the Texans. Like whatever. That's just the networks.
Yes,
they protected that game, which they should. Like that's going to be a fantastic game.
Yeah.
So you said Rams Cardinals, and I was like, I'm with that. That was the one I was leaning towards, just sending. But once you said that, I was like, yeah, no brainer. So to start out, Tampa Bay, the Bucks coming into Ford Field, another playoff rematch. I bet against the Lions last week and I didn't win.
Yep.
I'm gonna bet against the Lions again this week. 7.5 is a lot of points.
Yep.
That's a huge spread for how good Tampa looked last week.
Yes.
This isn't me disrespecting the Lions at all. I think the Lions will win this game. I just think it's disrespectful that it's a full touchdown spread. In the NFL, that's a huge spread. Yeah. Anything above a touchdown is a huge spread in the NFL.
Yeah, and not only the touchdown, but the hook with it. The hook's what's big to me. So I've got 2 notes next to this one. So I was watching this game and I just can't do it. But I'm taking the Lions at minus 7.5 for the show. I'll take it. It's got a 32% of the bets, 50% of the money. So actually, the Bucks are kind of the popular side here. So what I don't like is the hook. So one of my notes is I did not take this. It's too many points. However, if I had to take it, I'd be adding the Lions minus 7.5. But the other one is look for the best line, just like that Seattle game we were talking about. Don't just settle for that 7.5 if you like the Lions. Wait for that line to come back down to 7, because at some point it's going to get to be a battle between those that like 7.5 and Tampa and those who like 7 in Detroit. So you will find a 7 out there somewhere. So keep looking for it. But for the show purposes, I got 7.5.
All right. And then my lovely Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals are going to the Chiefs. Mike, I'll let you kick this one off. How do you feel about this game? Is this one that you have?
Yes, this is one that I have. I have this one because we are looking at, and it's a stinky one, but 19% of the bets, 26% of the money. So I normally wouldn't take that. I like more money. I like a little bit more. But what I love is that little bit of bet, that little bit of money. This line opened at 6. It moved to 5.5. It moved to the Bengals. I have this in my pocket, the Bengals plus 5.5.
I love it. I love it. And just so you know, that line's growing. It's at 6.
So it bumped back up. So, all right. So I'm not going to have much value in that one. But
that depends on the book. Like I said, there's some places it's still 5.5. There's other places it's 6. It's kind of it is moving though. This is
and these lines are gonna move. And there's certain games, if we weren't doing this show, Blake, that I probably would wait a couple more days to see where it goes. But I'm not mad at that. I actually like that, because this is what I call, I think you've heard me say this before, the gamble within the gamble. I take bets on Monday and Tuesday to see if I can beat that line. And sometimes I lose. But when I can get a game on Monday at 5.5, and then it closes on Sunday at 3.5, I won the first bet of my bet technically. So I love it. So not bad at it. It's all good. But yeah, I've got the Bengals at 5.5.
I am obviously, we all know I'm a Joe Burrow stan, and I am with you 100% on that. I also like the under in this game, 48.
Yep.
I feel like, I don't know if you looked at the numbers of this to back me up. I feel like when people see these two teams, they expect a high scoring game. And
Yes.
a lot of the times that's not the case.
Yeah.
These defenses ramp up because they know that they're playing these top flight quarterbacks. Like we saw it, we've seen it in playoff games. We see it all the time. So I like the under here. I think it's a little inflated because of the two teams that are playing.
Yeah.
If it was more at like 44, 43, I would probably say the over. Yeah. But I like the under in this spot.
See, the only thing that scares me because I have that in my pocket, but I've got it at 47, the under. So this is the same thing. You made a great point with why isn't this a primetime game? And just because it's not on primetime, this is a primetime game for betting purposes. Like this is a game that's going to be spotlighted and people are going to do it. So for me, that usually means an inflated line. And now it's at 48. Like I said, I took it at 47. I'm going to be taking bets a little bit early because I want to put them on the show when I like them. And sometimes I'm going to lose value. I lost a little bit of value there, but I'm on that under with you in my pocket.
Yeah, and it's the same thing we just talked about. Some books it's at 47.5. Yep. There's some books that's all the way up at 48.5. Like It really just depends on where it's at. That's at a key football number too.
Yes, if that goes, that's one of those that if it goes any higher, I will. I will be firing again. I liked it at 47. I'm going to love it at 48.5.
Yeah. So we have the Rams and the Cardinals. Matthew Stafford. This line shocked me. A little bit. I understand that Arizona's at home. They played very well against the Bills last week, but the Rams, like, say what you want. Stafford played out of his mind last week. He played incredible. He played winning football. The team, the offensive line in front of him did not. He played winning football. Obviously, there was the one pick in the end zone, but that dude was lights out on Sunday night.
Yes.
Besides that one moment.
Yes. I agree with you. I agree with you.
So with this game, I like the Rams plus, and this is another case. Like it's some places it's 1, other places it's 1.5. I would just take Rams money line. Like that line's too low. But I like the Rams in this spot. I think Arizona is a frisky team this year. I really do.
Yes.
But I like the Rams in this spot.
Yeah, I liked what I saw of the Cardinals, not only offensively last week, but defensively. And again, it's week 1. They're going to get some rust off. For me, I went with the Cardinals here, -1. This is one that since we started this show from the very first time, you've heard me say when it goes from dog to fave, it's almost an auto fire for me. This line made sense to me actually when it was the Rams favored by 2.5. Yeah. When it ran and it ran all the way to the Cardinals -1, 1.5 on 30% of the bets and 47% of the money. So they're still not the popular side, and it made that jump. That's a sharp move. I'm going to take it all day. If it was only at 1.5, I would have taken the money line, but at 1, I'll give up the 1 point. So I got the Cardinals -1.
I like it. Bears at Houston. What are you thinking about this game, Mike? Is this one that you're firing on for sure?
I am not firing on this one. I am not firing on this one.
This is an ugly Sunday night football game.
This is an ugly game, and this is an ugly bet. This is one where when I look at it, and it's funny because I wish I took better stats on how many of these I win. Everyone's on the Texans. Everybody loves the Texans, yet this line moved to the Bears. I'm going to take that every time. I'm going to take the Bears at 6.5. And you know what? I just made a mistake. The lines actually, everyone's on the Texans. The line actually moved to the Texans. This is why I don't have this in my pocket. This is my note because it went from 5.5 to 6.5. It actually moved towards the Texans because it's so popular. So that means that there's going to be a liability in the book. The book is going to need Chicago. You'll get texts from me all the time. Hey, remember my one, Notre Dame. The books need Notre Dame. I'm jumping on it. Hey, the books need this. The books need the Bears. If I were to have to take this game, which I didn't, I'd take the Bears plus 6.5.
This line's moved a lot too. This opened at 3.5. From what I'm seeing, at least from where I'm looking.
Okay.
It opened at 3.5 and it's at 6.5. So that's a lot of movement.
I told you everybody's on the Texans. The money's going money's going that way.
And you know what? Call me a sucker. Give me the sucker bet. I like Houston in this spot. You said it last week, rookie quarterback. How'd that work out for you? Now I'm going to say it, rookie quarterback. And I don't think Caleb should be. I think Caleb will play better this week, but
yes. And you're not going to get Will Levis underhanding balls to the other team.
No, you'll get CJ Stroud doing it.
But this is where I love these bets. These are bets I love talking about and telling. If I actually had this one, because how do you take the Bears in this game? Like I look at this and I love the Texans, but I just can't do it because I know when you get 70% of the bets on a certain team, that those teams only cover like 40. They're not covering over 50% of the time. So,
yeah.
Again, I don't need to get into the popular and the fading them, but the Bears 6.5. And you went with the Texans.
Yep, Texans. Yep. And then the last game, Monday Night Football, Falcons at Eagles. Philly is favored by 6.5. Over under 47.5. I like the under in this game. I don't really like a side. I don't know what to think about Atlanta still. Kirk Cousins looked like he's coming off an Achilles injury.
Yep.
And am I still do you expect me to fully trust Philly? They looked good, obviously, at the game in Brazil. Yep. But do we know how good Green Bay is? All of this.
Yep.
I don't want to overreact to anything I saw week one. But it's a primetime game. It's a high number, 47.5. I'll take the under.
And you're right on. I'm with you on the under 47.5 here. This is one I do have in my pocket. This is the bet split is 46% of the bets, 56% of the money. If 46% of the bets are on a team, you think the line would move the other way. It's not. It's moved towards the under. It opened at 48. It moved to 47.5. We're on the right side on this one, Blake. And again, primetime games, they inflate those lines because they know the public is saying they want to see points and they fire blindly on that over.
Yep. That was me. Until a couple of years ago, I was like, oh, primetime overs. Love it. Not anymore.
We all live and learn. We all live and learn. So when I'm late, so we're both on Cincinnati, right? So I can, now that we're both on Cincinnati, I can throw out the NFL trend. So the NFL trends are the favorites of 6 or more points that lost have covered the spread 76% of the time next week. The only team that covers this week is Cincinnati. So we're
Joe Burrow, baby.
So you've got Purdue and you've got
I took two picks. Trends. I took 2 picks from your trends, and I didn't know the trend before the show.
I love
those were natural picks by me.
That is Blake. Blake, you are a trend. Now, do you have any NFL bets in your pocket?
Yeah, I like the Cowboys minus the 6 against the Saints. I don't think the Saints are good. Nope. Carolina's really bad, but I still don't think the Saints are good. And the Cowboys showed up last week. I know that they were playing against Deshaun Watson's corpse, but they still showed up and they played really well. Yeah. And I don't think the Cowboys defense gets enough credit. Like, their defense is really good. It's just everyone focuses on Dak, but their defense is legit. Like, they have really good corners. They have good D-line play, everything. So I like that. Chargers at Panthers. I like the Chargers minus the 4.5.
Yeah.
I normally am a big home dog guy, but not with the Panthers. I don't want the Panthers might not win a game this year. Legitimately. They're that bad.
Yeah, that's one that at some point I'm going to be on them again. You just know the numbers are going to work out for me and I'll be on them. I'm going to be terrified. But what else?
Browns at Jags. I like the Jags -3. Same thing we kind of talked about with the last game. I think the Browns are just broken.
Yep.
But if Jameis ends up playing,
yep,
then I'm not touching this game. I love watching Jameis play football.
That is good. That there is a big possibility of that happening with everything that's starting to come out.
And then I will be taking one home dog, and this game is so ugly, and I want to hold my nose. Packers +3 at home against the Colts. I don't know why. I'm not a huge Anthony Richardson guy.
Okay.
But I feel like everyone and their mother will be on the Colts.
Yes.
And Packers at home.
Here, I'll let me pull up those splits for you real quick. It didn't catch my eye. I've got to move over to shoot. Hold on, sorry.
No, you're good.
Real quick here. The Colts, we've got 78% of the bets and 77% of the money. Fire on that. Fire on those Packers all day, baby. Fade that.
I love
public.
it.
Fade that public.
I love it.
So Tom here in the chat brings up Big Penix Energy. I wish I saved it. They had a bet on who would be the first quarterback benched, and I want to say Cousins was at like 11-1.
Really?
Yes, and I could see that happening this week if they start getting pummeled. And with that leg, he did not look 100%.
No, he doesn't.
They could pull it, and they could be putting some Penix in there. So, whether that was a real bet, MGM had put those numbers out there, and Cousins was the one I was looking at. I'm like, he doesn't look good.
So Austin's saying you're betting your hard-earned money on Malik Willis. No, I'm not. I'm just that spot and the amount of money that's going to be on the Colts in that spot. I'm getting a full field goal at home. I'm holding my nose, and I know it's gross.
Oh,
I know I'm betting on Malik Willis, but it's gross.
There's some hazard picks that you're going to take. So let's see. Hopefully, I can keep on my. Like I said, I ended up I think 6-4 in the NFL last week. So hopefully, I can keep on that.
Week 1 is hard, man.
Yeah, the trend I don't like is I have won my first bet every week we've been doing this, and then I go in the tank. So I had that. I don't know how this won, the Dolphins and the Bills under 49, but it happened. Unfortunately, Tua got hurt, and that's what ended up happening. But I had that one. We know I've got the Bengals in Kansas City. We know I've got the Bengals. I took the Raiders and the Ravens under 42.5. That was 43% of the bets, 91% of the money. That line moved from 43 to 42. It's now down to 41.5. I got a ton of value in this one. So the Raiders and the Ravens under 42.5. This one, it could be fishy, and this one could stink, depending on what you think of these two teams. I took Denver +3 at home against the Steelers.
I like that one too. I agree. I wouldn't take it because I just don't know with everything going. I think Fields is the better quarterback than Russell Wilson. I really do. But I also like Bo Nix also stinks. Yeah. I've hated Bo Nix for a very long time. But like Denver's defense is legit. Yeah. And Pittsburgh won last week without scoring a touchdown. Yeah. So I don't know how they're going to score a touchdown this week.
Yeah. And it's down to 2.5 now. So the line's moving my way, but I think that's going to be a 2.5-3 line where it's just going to toggle back and forth. But Denver +3 is in my pocket. Onto your Chargers and Carolina game. I love these stinky unders when they get into the 30s, but I've got this game under 39.5. Another good split, 40% of the bets, but 52% of the money, and it's moved from 40.5 all the way down to 39 before the show. Another one that you're on the Browns and the Jag. I took the Browns and Jags under 41.5. I got Deshaun Watson in a big question mark. Hopefully he plays, because if he plays, it's much better for the under.
Yes.
But it's a 47% of the bet, 69% of the money split, and it's moved from 43.5 to 41.5. Again, moving my way. And then we know from the show, the Falcons and Eagles under 47. Those bets are actually in my pocket, and we'll see how we end up going. Can I ask you, Blake?
Yes.
Have you tracked, what are you looking like for the season so far since we started with week 0? Your record,
It's not great.
It's not great.
Mine
down.
Here's the problem, Mike. Here's my problem. Okay. And I'm just going to be honest. My picks for the show have been okay. Haven't been great. They've been kind of up and down. Like I was looking, because I have like a sheet of everything over here that I like last week. Most of them, like I said, I think I went 3-6. Not great. The week before I did better. I went 5-3, I think, the week before in the other picks that I threw out. But I don't just bet the games that I even like throw out on the show. I'll just see a game that I like, and I'm just like we talked about before. I'm just spraying. NFL last week, I think I broke about even because I hit on some touchdown scorers.
Yeah, so you had some plus money.
Yeah, those when they hit, it's really good.
Yeah.
But I think in the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 parlays where I was one leg away.
That last
3 separate ones. 3 separate 4-leg parlays where I was one leg away from it hitting. And it just, it was like last week, everything hit except for Penn State. Because Penn State couldn't cover a spread to save their life.
That big dog, the big dogs are barking. The big dogs are barking.
And then, I didn't go anywhere near that Northern Illinois game, and I wish I would have. I wish I would have taken Northern Illinois. Obviously, looking back on it now, but yeah, I mean it's so early in the season. Usually by week 4, week 5, I really have a good feel of the teams that I like and the teams I'm staying away from.
Okay.
Because and I love that you have a system that you stick with, and that is how you're picking your games. I'm firing on games, and then which this is not a winning formula. I don't recommend it to anyone. But then I'm feeling it out, and I'm seeing which teams I like riding with. Like Tennessee is already a team I will be betting on consistently every single week.
Yeah.
Texas, it's the same thing. When Texas plays Georgia, they will that spread will probably be less than field goal either way. Yeah. And I'll end up taking Texas because I feel very confident in them. The other one too, Georgia's another team I'll probably be riding with for a while though. Georgia's spread this week I think is 24.5, and I still like Georgia in that spot.
Yeah,
it's just a lot of points.
That's the problem with it. They're those spreads are going to be so big. We can ride with those teams, and for the people out there, when Blake starts riding, I'm right behind him. You know that. I have my bets I put in here. I will pack I got my little book here. I'm going to pack my book up. And I'm not going to touch anything. However, when those texts start coming in and me and you start talking, all of a sudden I got something in there. But I was just curious. I know I
the last 2 years. Let me just put it this way: the last 2 years, by my last 3 weeks of the season, usually I'm only losing 3 or 4 bets.
Yeah,
I'm firing on a lot of games and I'm doing really well. There was, I think it was 2 years ago, championship weekend, I went 8-0.
Yeah.
And parlayed them all. I hit it was a $10 bet to win it was well over $1,000.
See, there we go.
And I was that was great. Same thing Super Wild Card weekend, I parlayed every game. It was the year that the Bengals lost the Super Bowl. So 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, these years all run together.
Yeah,
I went 6-0 in Super Wild Card weekend. Like, just hit everything.
And the reason I bring it up here is that we've got some people listening. We got some people in the chat room. We got some people that'll listen later. Losses happen, but keep with us here. Keep with us. And like, I'm feeling good. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be honest. I'm a losing NCAA better overall. Right now, I'm hitting over 500, so I'm losing a little bit of juice there. The NFL is going to come around. Stick with us here, people. When we say this is a lean, do what you please. But when we're saying it's in our pocket, you're talking to two guys here that over the stretch of time, not only are we beating the closing line, but we're putting some money in pocket. So just stick with us here. Write these things down. Feel free to reach out to either of us on social media, or however you want to do it. We'll help you through it. We'll repeat what we just said here if you didn't catch it. But the reason I brought that up was we're coming along. We're starting to tick along here, and I feel it. I feel your trends are coming, and I trust the people that I follow the money with, and that I know that they're going to be tightening up their lines, and everything's going to be all right.
You know my favorite trend in all of college football?
Tell me.
Gambling. No, Mike has Twitter. Mike, what's your Twitter handle?
Hey, where'd Mike go? Hey, there he is. Hi. It is, I want to say I'm Mike Iveso, right? Yeah, Mike Iveso.
So, yeah.
At Mike's to be determined.
At to be determined.
At hashtag winning.
My favorite trend in all of college football is when service academies play each other. You bet the under every time. You know that I think it's like the last 40 games, it's like 39-1.
It's only a matter of time before it's going to be like over under of 12, and people are still going to fire.
That's the one was last year. Army
was it like
Navy
20 something, 28, 20.
That was Iowa. That was an Iowa game.
Game,
and I took the under and it hit. I think it was Iowa, Minnesota. The line, it got all the way down to, I want to say it was like 27.5. And then live bet though, it got down to like the low 20s. It was insane.
So, and this is kind of Tom here in the chat is saying it's always good to hear perspectives from other people. Helps him determine the bets that he may or may not take.
Yeah.
And what I like about this is that it's two different perspectives. You've got Blake's feels, you got Blake's football knowledge on what, quarterbacks and defenses and offensive lines. And then you've got my perspective of where the professional money is, and those guys have obviously their views and their analytics of what they do with it. And so when I obviously I have my system that I do that way, but I take what you say seriously, Blake. I listen to people that know on the radio that know a lot about football, and I'll listen to it. And again, Tom, take it for what it's worth. But in the end, if we can sway you one way, I think it's going to be the right way. We're on the right side a lot.
Yeah. And it's like, for me, and I know you feel the same exact way, I look at this as entertainment. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some sharp and I'm trying to get rich quick, because that doesn't happen for the vast majority of people. I look at this as the same as if I was going to go out to the bar for a night, or if I was going to go to a dinner or something like that. This is entertainment for me.
Yeah, to me, it's no different than going golfing. I don't golf enough to be good. I don't practice enough to be good and know what I'm doing. It's the same with this. I'm going off of somebody else and what they do. I have another job. I do that. This is what I do, like you say, for entertainment. I don't. People always want to know, how much do you bet? And you know my response. I don't bet enough to win to retire or lose to lose my house. That's the bottom line. It's all it is.
It's all about staying within your means. And
absolutely.
If you want to have enough in it where you're like, you get happy or sad when you lose, but at the same time, you're not ruining your life.
No. Nope. Losses are going to happen. You have to be able to take Carolina in that Carolina-New Orleans game and laugh about it.
Exactly. Exactly. All right. Anything else before we get out of here, Mike? I think we're about done, man.
I think we've covered it all. We've given some good advice. We've given some trends. We've given some picks, some weekly notes. And again, guys, reach out to us. We have we have our philosophies. We know what we're talking about, and hopefully we can help someone.
Skydog, you're 100% right. They would find a way to go under on that number. Real quick, because I remember your Rookie of the Year pick in the NFL.
Yes,
I wouldn't feel good about that one.
He
needs to catch the football maybe once or twice.
Yes, so that's funny. I did have that written down. Some movement in the future markets is so after week 1, he went from 25-1 to 20-1. He was still sitting at 20-1 today, but after that last game, I don't know how good that is. But again, it's up and down.
I think he's going to come on later in the season.
Yeah, there's going to be
Keon Coleman is who we're speaking about, by the way.
Yes, Keon Coleman. And the future movement that you're not going to like, but you might want to jump on, Blake, is you can get Michigan over under 7.5 wins right now.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, because I think they're a lock for 8. Like, yep. Maybe this is just dumb. This is Michigan. Like, my Michigan fandom doesn't come out very often. I don't see 5 losses on that schedule. I don't.
So,
I've had multiple people be like, watch out for Michigan State. And I'm like, they won 1 game against Maryland. Can everyone just pump the brakes? Understand Aiden Childs is electric, which he is. Like, he is the most roller coaster there is in college football.
Yep.
He's must-watch TV, in my opinion, legitimately. But their defense is still ass.
Yeah.
So let's just all calm down, okay?
Yeah. That's one, but I wanted to let you know that one. But I'm gonna keep.
I might be firing on that.
Yeah, when it gets a little bit lower, because I've got 9. So if it gets a little bit lower, I'll see if I can middle it and go from there. Yep, 100%. Yeah. But I wanted to let you, when I saw that, I'm like, ooh, Blake might fire on that 7.5.
It might be. I'm gonna be looking. I will be looking into that after the show. So
you look and let me know. Yep.
Thank you to everyone that's watching, listening. Come, ride with us for the rest of the season. This is only gonna get better.
Yep.
Todd, thank you so much for all the work you do on the back end, the graphics, everything.
Thank you, Todd.
We appreciate it. And Mike, thank you, and good luck this weekend.
Absolutely. You too. I'll be talking to you.
All right. Sounds good.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.